Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to start by sharing the concerns and statement made by the chairman. I think you've heard it from other members of this committee as well. Yeah, the benefit of the bargain was struck at the time we passed the infrastructure bill. I've heard you refer on a number of occasions to new ideas. Having worked with the states, including my state of Maryland, for a long time on this, Mr. Secretary, I think the important thing is to make sure that they get the benefit of the bargain. And I think you're hearing on a bipartisan basis, this committee is going to scrutinize that very closely. There are just a couple of questions I have before we close. One is just to follow up on one of your responses with respect to the Epstein files, specifically the visit you and your family took to Epstein's private island in 2012, and I think you also said you went on his yacht. Is that right? Or boat? No.
No.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
At that time, I think you mentioned that you were accompanied by your wife and kids and nannies. My question is, do you know whether the nanny that you had on that trip was the same nanny that Jeffrey Epstein expressed interest in meeting?
No, I have no idea about that whole thing. I mean, I don't recall it having anything to do with me, and I don't know that.
It's
no.
just, you know, this guy was a convicted sex offender, and obviously not a great place for kids and nannies. Was Ghislaine Maxwell on the island at that time?
No.
So turning now to the issues of the high-speed internet and broadband, let me just say I appreciated your very emphatic response to Senator Shaheen about Starlink, SpaceX, or any other entity not being able to change the terms of the deal after the fact. I thought that was a really clear and defined statement. So I do want to ask you about another rider. You described that as a rider that seems to have, been referenced, at least in the president's executive order, with respect to AI. The order directs you, the Secretary of Commerce, to study whether the department can withhold federal rural broadband funding from states with unfavorable AI laws. Mr. Secretary, that would be a rider. Is there any place in the law that you've seen that that could be a condition of providing the funds that we're talking about here today?
I'm not sufficiently familiar to answer, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I appreciate if you can get back to us, because you properly described what Starlink's trying to do as a rider after the fact. This would be a clear rider after the fact, and there's just no justification or legal grounds for applying this conditions when the condition did not exist in the underlying law. Let me ask you about the GAO. The GAO has informed the committee that Department of Commerce is declining to answer questions regarding certain investigations and audits. As you know, GAO is sort of empowered by the Congress as a congressional watchdog to look into fraud, waste, and abuse. They have very broad jurisdiction. I'm just asking, Mr. Secretary, can you commit that your department will comply and work with GAO and cooperate with GAO in their work?
My understanding is driven by our general counsel, who's instructed us how to respond, and we will respond according to whatever the rules are as informed by my general counsel.
Okay, well, I hope, Mr. Chairman, that we have a shared interest in making sure that GAO can conduct a proper oversight of the department. It comes with every administration, and so it seems to me that's something that the department should comply with. Let me just briefly follow up on questions from Senator Coons and Senator Reed regarding the export of very high-end U.S. technologies, high-end chips, which of course are important to power AI. And I was very concerned. Well, first of all, I was happy to see early in the administration the adoption of the affiliates rule. right? So when you say we are not going to allow the export of a high-end technology to one entity, that we also make sure that we don't export those same high-end technologies to their subsidiaries or other related entities. Because it made sense that if you're going to close the front door, you shouldn't open the back door. For the life of me, Mr. Secretary, I can't understand why that was repealed. Could you take a moment and let me know why and whether you plan to reinstate the affiliates rule?
The complex relationship between the United States and China is in the hands of the President of the United States and Secretary of State, and they help us and instruct us, and we follow their lead.
So it's interesting, Mr. Secretary, we had our trade ambassador here, and I asked him questions about this, and he said to ask you. Now, you're telling me I should ask Secretary Rubio or the President. You are in charge ultimately of, well, the President, of course, is ultimately in charge, but the export controls policies of this administration, frankly, have been very confusing when it comes to chips. I mean, we all know about the episode that the President went to the UAE after his sons traveled there and the deal that went down. But I am focused now on China. So you're asking me to go ask the Secretary of State about why the affiliates rule was dropped.
What I'm saying is it is a very nuanced and complex relationship between the United States and China. The President is driving that relationship. We all are familiar with the weaponization of critical minerals and rare earths and magnets. And so the resolution of those topics is really with the President of the United States and the Secretary of State as they work through the nuance of the broad relationship between China and the United States. And that's what I'm saying. It's not a particular topic. It's a broad, very nuanced topic that rests in the hands of the President of the United States. And I think he has done it. He has handled that situation, I think, brilliantly.
Well, we'll have to disagree on that. I see the chairman has his finger on the button. I'm going to submit some questions regarding the issue of the Trump administration's decision to take a stake in the rare earth sector. I think it was U.S. rare earth, and I will be following up for the record on that, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Murkowski.